So let's talk about the action sequences for this movie, because in the end of the day, you know, you're going to this movie thinking you're going to get a lot of action, and really, to be quite fair, you don't really get that. The opening scene, the whole sequence with Bruce's dream and the way it shows how the Waynes got killed, again for like the 100th bloody time that we've seen this. But surprisingly, they do it justice. I mean, it's a very good opening to this movie, and that's mostly because of Hans Zimmer's score for this film. The opening score for this really sells the sequence here, and it's great. The way it opens, the way it's shot, the way the music plays. It's just beat for beat nice and well structured, along with the sort of homage it pays to the Dark Knight Returns comic graphic novel sequence in the way the Waynes died. So, you know, that's all great. The ending part of the sequence with Bruce in the cave and floating up into the air. Yeah, it's a bit cliche and a bit like what the fuck's going on, but you have to remind yourself it is technically a dream that he's having, and that's what it is. That's what it's meant to be, symbolic, and for the most part, it works. And it works really well into leading into the Battle of Metropolis sequence from Man of Steel, and seeing it from Bruce Wayne's point of view. That was a great opening to the movie. Just the destruction, obviously, and the human side of it. If there's one thing that we never really got from Man of Steel, was the human side of how badly this battle really was, of how badly this event was. And here we just get a glimpse of it, really, and it's nicely done. But at the same time, it's kind of bullshitty, because again, there's a lot of bullshitty going on in this sequence, in this whole film in general. The whole part of Bruce Wayne calling this old dude and telling him to evacuate the building, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. And the whole part with the little girl as well, pointing out that her mother was in the exact building that he tried to get to. It's like, what was it? Was it take your daughter to work day or something? Again, there's a lot of stuff like that, and it's like, oh, my head hurts. Then we have the first appearance of Batman. That was a nicely done sequence, really. The way that Batman is portrayed and shown in this movie, it's great. It's a great opening for his character. It's very fast and very brutal. It's trying to really show us that the Batman in this movie is sort of like a demon, a devil, and that's a nice representation, because, you know, Batman is always portrayed as this demon-like figure, with Gotham representing hell and Metropolis always being heaven, and Superman being Jesus or God, if you will. And again, a lot of Jesus homages in this movie. I mean, if you got sick and tired of them in Man of Steel, you're gonna get sick and tired of them in this movie. But for the most part, I think the symbolicness of it is nicely done, if not forced, and very in your face. You then have the Batmobile chase as well. You know, you always gotta have a Batmobile chase, and the new Batmobile is great. I do like the design of it. I think it's terrific the way they've done that. The only part I absolutely despise is that rotating gun on the front. It's like it's like a person who's looking all good from head to toe to bottom to, you know, whatever, and then they've got a nose piercing, and it's like, it just ruins the whole image. And that's kind of what this is, at least for me. I really don't like that gun turret on the Batmobile, because otherwise, if you take that off, the whole thing just looks spectacularly smooth and brilliant. The chase itself, though, is mediocre to best. I mean, there's a lot of CGI in this, and I'm not complaining about the CGI. I'm not one of those people that thinks that CGI ruins a movie. I'm all for special effects, and that I studied special effects. I've got a new appreciation for it. I understand it, but really, in the end of the day, it's how you use it that makes a film or a scene work. And the way it's used here and the way it's done, yeah, you've got a lot of practical stuff as well, but then you've got a lot of weird moments as well. A lot of brutal moments with the Batmobile smashing into cars and trucks and basically literally killing people, and it's like, what the hell? And this chase itself is really slow. I mean, compare this Batmobile chase to the ones we've seen in Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises. I mean, Nolan is not a good action director, and yet he did something glorious and spectacular with those sequences in those films. Because I don't even know how to say it. It's because of the practicality, the way it was shot, the way the music was done. It just sold it. Do you understand? It worked, and the characters and the dynamics. And that's another thing. The characters, you care about the characters, really. You care about what's happening on screen. I'm watching this, and pretty much halfway through, I just couldn't give a shit anymore. It was too slow. It was too special effectsy. There was too much shit going on, and it's like, yeah, I don't care anymore. It just doesn't work. And by the end of it, you know, when that whole sequence happens where Batman confronts Superman, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because like, why is Superman stopping Batman but not the guys with guns, and why is he not, you know, arresting him, since he literally just killed a bunch of guys? I mean, what the hell? Again, it's stuff like that that brings a movie down, because the motivations or the character actions or just the lack of mentioning those events just makes it feel very empty and lifeless. It feels like something that's just going on a roll here, and that's the biggest problem in this movie and its action sequences, because it's really a shame that the opening is actually that good, and then the rest of the movie is just like meh. The the sequences were there, the Senate hearing sequence, I thought that was intense for the most part. I thought that was intense, the way they tied this character's little subplot into the whole sequence here. I thought that was done really well. The whole stuff with Holly Hunter, Senator Flinch, the Granny Peach Tree piss jar, I don't even know, like, fuck. Good sequence overall. It was very unexpected, and when it happened, it was like, whoa. In the end, though, it was kind of predictable because you did see it coming, but when it did happen, it was still unexpected, and it was pretty cool. But again, the whole reason behind it, to try and frame Superman or try and get public opinion voted against him, I don't know, it just, again, it didn't flow really well. It didn't flow good that much. It's like, again, whatever. It's just something that's happening for the sake of happening. And then you've got the fight with Batman and Superman. So Batman v Superman. The whole film, you're just waiting to see this one fight. And is it worth it? Is it worth the price mission alone? No, it's not. Because it's anticlimactic, and it's very short, and really nothing much happens besides two guys punching each other. That's really it. Batman's not really smart in this fight. You know, they try to act like he is with the way he sets the spear down and does all these little traps, but in the end it's like, those are pointless. Why are they there? And Superman, and the whole motivation behind the fight as well. This whole reason, that the way that Lex manipulated Superman in a fight in Batman, it's ridiculous, stupid, and it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like, it just does not work. There needed to be a better reason, there needed to be a bit more logic to it, and the way it's done here, especially with the fact that the reason Batman is trying to kill Superman for something that wasn't really his fault, you know, a previous scene ago, it's just like, why? What the hell? And the fact that, you know, Batman doesn't even know he's Clark Kent, and, you know, Superman does, and even points it out to him, like, yeah, I know you're Bruce Wayne, blah blah blah, we need to talk. The whole fact that this fight could have ended with just them talking, that's what really kills it. Because, like, again, that's the reason for you fighting? Wow. How fucking sad, how bullshitty. Like, when you're watching a film like this, and, you know, two characters are meant to be fighting, there needs to be a good reason why they are opposed to each other, and why they are fighting, and why they're doing what they're doing. Otherwise, there's just not going to be a lot of interest or emotional value to it. And for me, there just wasn't a lot of interest in this fight. I'm just watching it and I'm thinking, yeah, that's all cool and that, but in the end, I just don't give a shit. And it's very forgetful. Like I said, a lot of the sequences in this movie for me were very forgetful. I think the only part I remember is when Batman's punching Superman after he's hit him with the kryptonite, and then suddenly his armored glove makes the sound of hitting steel, and that's when you realise, oh, Superman's recovered, and Batman's starting to back away while raising his hands, like he's seeing death itself facing down on him. And it's a great moment as well, because it just makes Batman look like a pussy, and yeah, it's just great. But by the end of the fight, like I said, anticlimactic, because yeah, Batman kicks Superman's ass as expected, because again, it's inspired by The Dark Knight Returns. So really, this whole idea of who's gonna win is bullshit, because you know who's gonna win, you know who's gonna beat who, and it's just anticlimactic for that. And the whole reason why they become friends at the end, like why they're all cool with each other, like, I don't mind the reference, I don't mind the connection. It's something I myself noticed and always wondered, I wonder what it would be like if they used this in a film. The way they executed it just doesn't work, and it's laughable. Like, I get the idea behind it, I get what they're trying to do with it in terms of from an emotional point of view, but it doesn't work because it just feels very flimsy, very like, oh, just, you know, sudden, and like, oh, how lucky, like, wow, that's it, wow, it just took those words to, it's just like, again, a lot of people have already done reviews on this, they've already mentioned the reasons why, and you know, yeah, they've already pointed out why it's bullshit, so I don't really need to go into depth into this, but yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of crappy sense. There needed to be more investment with the characters and their motivations so that the fight itself could start in a good way and could end in a good way. The way it's all structured and done, it's just bullshit, really. That's what it is. Now, the best part of this whole film, at least from an action scene perspective, really was the warehouse fight. Hands down, the entire fight sequence of Batman in the warehouse, kicking those guys' asses, was great. Because it just, you know, for me, that's the first time that they've ever gotten Batman's fighting style right in a film. If you're a fan of the Arkham games, then, and the way he fights in those games, that's exactly how he fights in this movie, and it's spectacular, it's brilliant. The cinematography for this one whole sequence is just done. It just makes Batman. They make it justice, basically. Do you understand? They give it the justice it deserves. They give Batman the fighting style he deserves, and the way he kicks ass in this, the way he does things, the way he throws these batarangs, the way he just surprises his enemies before he launches in, the strategy behind it, the whole, it's just great, really. It's just great. And again, another homage is paid to the Dark Knight Returns graphic novel at the end of this fight, and it's great. Overall, best part of the whole film, in my opinion. Again, another reason why Ben Affleck as Batman kicks ass, even if he is a freaking lunatic serial killer, but overall a good sequence. Then we have the final battle, which the trailers ruined, sadly. Again, something the trailers shouldn't have done, but what are you going to do? So Doomsday is in this movie, and the way Doomsday is created by, you know, taking Zod's corpse and mixing Lex Luthor's blood, it's just like, I mean, no. Doomsday as a character, I hate Doomsday, okay? I hate Doomsday because for me he's nothing more than a brute. That's what he is, and in the end of the day, that's what his character should be. He should be a brute, and they pretty much do that here. But Doomsday has an interesting backstory. And that backstory, for the most part, is actually really, really good, and really, really dark and tragic. And the way they portray Doomsday in this film is just shit. I mean, this character should not have been in this movie. And that should have been the first sign of how this movie was going to end, really, because, you know, when the only reason you would have Doomsday as the final villain is if you were going to do that comic book storyline. And it just makes a lot of sense now why they had this character in the film in the first place, and why they didn't have Lex in a power suit, or Metallo, for example. No, the reason they had Doomsday in this is because of that moment that happens at the end of this movie, and it's like, what the fuck? We haven't even gotten Justice League yet, and already they're pulling the stunt on us, and it's like, what the flying fuck? Overall, was the fight itself good? For me personally, yeah, it was the fight I enjoyed the most because it had Wonder Woman coming in kicking ass, it had Superman actually fighting like Superman, and it had Batman just, you know, being Batman and trying to be smart and doing something, you know. So overall, for me, this final fight was the best part of the whole film, even if it is just special effects heavy, but what do you expect? It is what it is. Like, they were never going to do anything else decent with it, so yeah. Yeah, I liked the whole team up part. I liked Wonder Woman kicking ass. I liked her using the lasso. I liked Batman dodging Doomsday's attacks and trying to find a strategic way into beating him. I liked Superman just kicking ass and using his powers to the max. I love the part when Doomsday shoots his laser and Superman shoots his laser and they collide. I mean, that's something I've always wanted to see done, and they did it here, and it was great. But the whole ending part with the way they finish off Doomsday, I mean, it's not bad, but again, it was rushed and unnecessary and unneeded, because that is not what they should have done. To be honest, Doomsday, again, should not have been in this movie. He should not have been the final villain, but another mistake for this movie, which leads me to the biggest spoiler of this film. The death of Superman. So not only do we have a movie that is trying to do its own version of the Dark Knight Returns graphic novel, we also have a film trying to do the Death of Superman comic graphic novel, and it's like, oh dear God. I wouldn't have had a problem with the death itself if they had just, you know, kept Superman dead at the end without actually hinting that he might come back. And this way we would have been a lot more surprised when we watched Justice League, sorry, and he did return in that, because the way the movie does it and the way it ends, it's like, yeah, that was just fucking pointless. I mean, why even do that? Why? I know obviously, you know, Superman can't be dead and he's going to come back again, but just the confirmation of it is what really just destroys this whole, you know, part of the film. And the fact that they drag on for it, I mean, this movie should have ended after like 2, 3, 5 minutes, and instead it goes on and on. I mean, this shit goes on for a good 10 minutes. I mean, the movie's practically over, and 10 minutes later they're still doing this whole death thing, and it's like, what the fuck? What pisses me off more is the fact they used Doomsday in this film, and that they killed Superman off in it. Because we are never going to get that moment from the comics where, or from that animated movie where, you know, everyone is at his funeral. We're never going to get that moment with the Justice League being there. We're never going to get that moment with all those characters there mourning him. Instead we get, you know, Bruce Wayne going, I failed him in life, you know, I failed but in death I won't, or some bullshit like that. And it doesn't feel earned because his character, you know, he didn't know him. He didn't know anything about him. He was trying to kill him just like a day ago. And suddenly he's like, oh, I failed him in life, blah, blah. Like he's just lost his best friend. And it's so fucking idiotic. It's so full of shit that I couldn't take that part of the movie seriously. It's like, yeah, whatever. Like, I just don't care. And that's what it was. I just couldn't give a flying fuck anymore. And then at the end, you've got the dust. It's just like, it's stuff like that that ruins a movie. If you're gonna kill someone off, kill them off and don't hint that they're going to come back. Because the moment you hint they're going to come back, it just makes the overall death pointless. Because now we're trying to figure out, oh, how's he going to come back now? What part of the movie is going to... Because that's the thing. When we watch Justice League, we're going to be sitting there wondering when he's going to turn up. And that's the biggest problem. It's kind of what they did wrong with the new Star Wars movie, you know, by telling us that Luke was in the film when really he was only in it for like 1 minute. Spoiler alert, sorry. But the point I'm trying to make is they shouldn't have marked it as that. They shouldn't have told us that he was going to be in the film. If they hadn't, it would have been more of a surprise. Here, they shouldn't have told us that, you know, he might be coming back to life, because it would have been more of a surprise for us when we see Justice League. But obviously we know that Henry is filming Justice League, so therefore, and because of the dust, we know he's going to come back. So it just makes the whole death plot in this film forced and pointless in the end.